Welcome to Let Go, Let EFT, where we are learning and leaning in with you, with your hosts Michelle Puster and Dr. Laura Spiller. EFT is a beautiful model helping people connect with themselves and the people that matter the most, developed by Dr. Sue Johnson.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
All right, so we're talking about today a great topic, I think, truly seeing the good in our clients' coping strategies. So what thoughts come to mind just when you hear that topic, truly seeing the good in our clients' coping strategies?
Well, I think it touches on one of the most common therapist misconceptions in the beginning of EFT therapy, that we are supposed to be changing the client's cycle right off the bat with our work, rather than helping them see their cycle, become really aware of it, and have them see the good in those protective coping strategies and those protective moves. I heard the phrase recently, decriminalizing that action tendency. That's our goal at the outset of EFT. Not
so
trying
what you just said is awesome and amazing. I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. I mean, I'm just thinking about the years of like banging my head against the wall, trying to change the cycle, feeling pressure to change the cycle, feeling like I'm not doing very good if I'm not changing the cycle. So I just want to repeat what you just said. There's a misconception that we should be trying to change the cycle. And what we actually should be doing is helping couples see it. Wow. It's just when you say that, I feel like a huge burden of pressure just lifted off my shoulders. Helping them see the cycle that we know is going to keep erupting,
which is in the room all the time.
Which is in the room all the time. That is like, oh, okay. That feels more manageable than trying to change the cycle.
Yeah. And, and I know, Michelle, this is kind of one of our goals of doing this, is to help clients have more, therapists have more compassion for themselves and to really speak to some of these self-therapist issues. And that's why this misconception is such a big problem, because when we have this idea that it's supposed to go a certain way, and then of course it's not, because it can't possibly work, right? They're doing their cycle for a very, very good reason. Then, and when it doesn't happen and that change isn't happening, and the cycle keeps coming up, then, right, then we suddenly go, oh no, they're still stuck in their cycle. What's wrong with me? I must not be doing it right. And we blame ourselves. Or sometimes, right, then we get super frustrated with the clients and we blame them. So somebody's, we fall into this too, right? When things, it feels bad when it's not going in the way that we think.
Of course. And yeah, so what you're starting to talk about is sort of the pitfalls for us as a therapist and where we get stuck. And this topic is particularly interesting to me, seeing the good in our clients' coping strategies, because about 2 years ago, Jim Thomas made this comment, I think he's a trainer in one of the trainings, which was something to the effect, when I really saw, he was talking about withdrawers specifically, when I really saw withdrawers' moves as beneficial, as beneficial to them, as beneficial to their relationship, then everything shifted and changed. And I kind of I made note, it was very notable. And I kind of felt like, yeah, I do that. But I can definitely say that 2 years later, or however much later, that I have a different perspective of that now. Just kind of speaking generally to an activated pursuer who gets really angry and really erupts, and then the withdrawer who quite successfully shuts conversations down, ends conversations, puts up roadblocks, whatever it is. I feel like today I have a different appreciation for their moves than I did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else is there for you, Laura?
I think that's really nice because that lets you lean in when that reactivity comes up, because you've got more sense of, how there's a positive function, how it is their way of fighting for the relationship, how it makes sense, how it's kind of their way of regaining their balance and feeling some safety when the connection is threatened. And that lets us, kind of it's one of those pieces of the alternative to trying to change the cycle, right? We're trying to create some space for them to bring compassion to their own moves and help them see the cycle and how it makes sense and how it's not working for them. And the more we can slow them down there, the more choice they have in those emotional moments, the more they can kind of, we're not expecting them not to have reactivity or emotion. Even when that action tendency is decriminalized, they're still going to feel some of that emotion. But if they can see that function, then they can slow down there and they can bring some self-compassion and they have more choice. They don't have to do the one thing that can shut it down or help them feel more like they're getting through. They've got a little more space to choose some different ways of responding. I guess that kind of brings it back to us as the self-therapist though, too. We have to have a sense of what we can do in these moments and when we might get triggered by the reactivity that's coming up. A lot of times, right, we see all these videos of beautiful therapy where the couple is doing all these ARE conversations, and we think that's a successful session or a successful enactment. And then when that doesn't happen, we have that kind of, what am I doing wrong here? Why aren't they changing? Other ways in which you kind of see that alarm for us happening around this topic. Other ways this is kind of a struggle for therapists.
Yeah, definitely. When I think about the pursuer's reactivity and anger in the room and intensity pointed at the partner, which maybe sometimes there's a little bit of vulnerability that comes forward and we're like, as therapists, excited and, oh, good, this withdrawer stepped out of their shell, yay. And then the pursuer just pounces on them. Or maybe just the intensity of the anger is so palpable in the room, like you can just feel it. It feels very unsettling. It feels like you just want to tamp it down. It can't possibly be good for anybody. It feels yeah. So there's lots of, when that intensity and anger and reactivity, or it comes out towards us, why aren't we getting better? Can you just please give us some homework? Why? We need more tools here. We've been coming for however long and we want more help. Whew, now it's coming towards us. Like we thought that was going towards the partner. Now it's coming towards us. It's like,
So yeah, it can come from inside us because we don't like that reactivity. It either says that we haven't been a good therapist, or it just triggers our attachment system that wants to protect them, their relationship, ourselves in that moment. Or it can even come from the client, right? Right. You're supposed to fix and change us. Why aren't you telling us what to do differently? Why aren't you giving us worksheets and homework and, coaching us or giving us tools? So it can be really, there's this thought that we need to be fixing them.
Right. And then we can easily, yes. And then we can easily scramble and call. How many times did you ask your supervisor, can I give them homework? They keep asking for homework. Is there some kind of homework? Surely there's something I can give them. Can I do this different? What should I, like, just this panic of, I need to be doing something different faster because it's hard. It's hard in the room. So that is one way I feel like that we might react. Like you said, we also might get frustrated with them. You're not even trying here. You keep getting so upset. You shouldn't be getting so upset. that might be another sort of reaction that we have inside of us.
I mean, I just kind of feeling my little bit of shame coming up. I was watching one of my sessions with a really difficult couple and saw myself at the end of the session sort of flip into confrontation. You know, at some point you guys have got to decide to do something differently. And I wasn't I didn't remember having done that. So when I saw it on the tape, I was like, oh my God, there I go, kind of like trying to make something happen.
Right.
And we all do it.
Yes. And totally. Yes, we all do it. And that's so interesting that, until we watch our tape backs, we might not even realize that we are getting activated or what we do when we get activated. And so I feel like for years, I probably, almost like you're in a play and you're like, these are the lines that you're supposed to read, validate, empathize. Yes, I get it. You get so angry, but inside I'm like, just stop getting so angry. Or to the withdrawer. Yes, you shut down, and that makes sense. And I get that it makes a lot of sense that you do that. It's sort of like I could read the lines on the play and I could act it out really well. However, it wasn't until recently that I have this feeling in my bones of like, oh yeah, this anger has kept them in the marriage. This anger is motivation. This anger is, I want you, be with me. I'm not going to give up on us. This anger is real motivation that if it had gone away, there would be silence. There would be nothingness. And so when I wasn't just sort of reading the plays like the lines in a play, and I really felt like, yes, thank goodness this pursuer has had this anger, because they're maybe the reason they're even in therapy. They're maybe the reason that they're even, seeing an individual therapist or two. They're the reason that they've read this book, that they know what EFT is, because this anger has motivated them to get help in their relationship. And that is valuable. It's hard for me to sit with. It's hard for the withdrawing partner to sit with. And you know what? It's hard for them to sit with. Like, it's not comfortable or doesn't feel good to be angry all the time. Lots of times withdrawers say things like, I think they just like to be angry. I think they like to fight. Nobody likes to fight. It does not feel good. Speaking as a pursuer in my relationship, it does not feel good to be angry all the time.
Yeah, it's their hope.
Right. It's their hope.
So if we think about kind of what are we, we're saying, don't try to change the cycle at the beginning. Stage 2, all about trying to change the cycle. Even the latter parts of stage 1, right? When they really are starting to get it, right? You've got a lot more ability to kind of, open space for other things. But in the beginning, we are trying to move in, meet them where they are, and really highlight that cycle, make the cycle as explicit as possible with the attachment framework that brings that compassion and validation and making sense of it. But trying to help them see their process, how they get stuck, what they do when they feel scared or their precious, precious relationship is threatened. So moving in, helping them see, just like you're saying, that those individual coping strategies are so understandable. We get it. And maybe helping them see the impact on the partner, right? That what they're doing with it and how their partner is being impacted. And then how that feeds right back into the cycle. We're helping them see that. Anything else you want to add to that before we kind of go on to those more practical action steps? How we do that in session, how that shows up.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about the withdrawer since I was talking about the pursuer. And it's very similar, you know, the withdrawer, a lot of us might get activated by a withdrawer shutting down and seemingly refusing to talk, or, you know, it feels like pulling words out of them, you know, pulling any kind of emotion out of them. Sometimes we might wonder, do they care? Gosh, it doesn't seem like it. They're staring out the window. They're staring at the floor. You know,
Or
we might.
super logical analysis.
Right. There's right. Very in their head, very far from emotion. And so that might be triggering for us the same way it's triggering for their partner, and really seeing the value in, look at the way they turn down emotion. If they met their partner toe to toe, which we sometimes have couples that do, whew, it is really hard, you know, like it says in the, I think it's in the Hold Me Tight book, that those relationships that are fight style, that they are often the ones that are the shortest. They might not even make it into therapy. So if that withdrawer wasn't successfully turning down the volume and they were both going head to head, it would be explosive. And we have couples like that, right? That can be very explosive, and it's very difficult. So the fact that they can successfully turn down the volume, it is protective of the relationship. It's protective of themselves, but it's also protective of the relationship. And it makes sense to disengage when this fight, not only does it sometimes get louder, sometimes it gets physical, sometimes it gets so explosive that people are leaving the house, you know, calling for separation, talking. So their strategy to turn down the volume is immensely helpful. And I often think now, wow, you helped to get your marriage to 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Because if you had turned and fought back at the same intensity that the pursuer was coming towards, I don't know that either of them could have tolerated that for as long, because that it's just so dysregulating on both sides. So the fact that these withdrawers can successfully turn down the volume, they really are protecting their relationship. And as you pointed out, Laura, of course, it's also getting caught in the cycle, and we're also helping them see that. But to see the true value in that, and for ourselves, and to reflect that back to them, it's like they can feel more compassionate for themselves, and also feel like, I'm not the terrible person that I've felt like I was being painted out to be, that I either am a withdrawer and don't care, or I'm the pursuer and always wanting to pick a fight, because my strategy actually has brought meaning and value to the relationship.
I love how you're decriminalizing those action tendencies, those moves. I want to attribute that to Catherine McKay. That was who I heard that phrase from, a supervisor in Florida. And she actually attributed it to another person in her Florida community whose name I don't remember, but it's a lovely phrase. And you're showing that right there, right? We're saying, this makes sense. This is your way of fighting for the relationship. I get that. And that's really important for how we can do this piece of helping them come closer and to an awareness of what they're doing in the cycle. Kind of start to embody that awareness of, here's our cycle, here's what we do, and here's why this makes sense, and how we got stuck with this. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so much easier for people to own their own moves when they feel like they're truly heard, and they feel like someone truly gets why they have those moves. If we're just saying, you shouldn't yell, that's making things bad in your relationship, nothing's going to change. They already feel bad. If they say, you shouldn't shut down and walk out of the room all the time, that's really not helping here. They already feel bad about that, and they don't know what to do. But if we help them see, like, wow, I get it, it makes so much sense, then they're like, yeah, I do that. It's much easier for them to say, yeah, I do that. And yeah, that is why. And that is why, because I am fighting for this relationship. Or yes, that is why, because I do want to turn down the volume. This fighting is not good for us.
Yeah. And you're setting us up perfectly for one of our action steps or one of our takeaway messages, which is kind of this helping them enact, not trying to enact these like super tender, like emotional enactments that are part of the latter phase of EFT, but do enactments about the cycle.
Yes.
Enacting kind of, I think of them as inside outside enactments.
I love that.
Cycle enactments, but it's just what you're saying, right? They're owning their move and adding in a piece of something more tender that kind of is part of that validation, or right, making sense of it. What's underneath, what's on the inside when they're doing this thing on the outside that is protective.
Yes.
So that's
so what might,
yeah, go ahead.
What might that sound like if you were telling a pursuer, saying, can you please turn to your partners and say, on the outside I do this, because on the inside, what might an example of that be?
So can you turn and tell them that on the outside, when you are getting angry and asking all of these questions to figure it out, that on the inside, right, you're really feeling pretty scared and confused. You're not sure in that moment. There's this meaning that's happening that you might you know that maybe they don't really care about this thing that feels so important to you right now. So I'm not going real deep into kind of primary,
right.
Using a little bit, but and I might even add in, depending, more attachment, that it's so important that they get it. Right. So you get scared. Can you tell them that when you are asking these questions in that angry voice, that there's this part of you on the inside that is kind of really scared that they don't get it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And putting those two things together, right? The tender piece as well as the action tendency in the early stages really helps that partner to hear it. Kind of take the blaming there that the partner may feel.
And it helps simplify things for us, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, it's a lot on us to track the cycle. It's a lot on us to organize what's happening in the room, not just for each person individually, but for the two of them. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I love the simplification of, on the outside, I do this because on the inside, I feel this. And like you said, especially in the first part of stage 1, we don't have to get into this deep vulnerable. I mean, they can't access that. It's not probably safe for them to access that yet, but we can do these enactments early on that touch on things. And yes, the inside outside is just such a helpful way to help them see it and help us start to organize this for each person.
I know we've got a little long, but I was just thinking of one more little tool that was helpful, and it's just a phrase. I mean, that I got from my supervisor, Sharon Chopkut Lee. At one point, she says, "Oh, that client really needs their protection," and that sort of stuck with me. And I've been able to say that to myself and even to my clients. Oh, right now you need your protection. Help me understand that. Mm-hmm. So even in just the question, wow, right now you're needing your protection. There it is coming up. Mm-hmm. Right? That tells me that something happened for you. You need that right now. That makes sense. What was happening there? I saw you look away. I hear that intensity in your voice and that energy coming up. Help me understand what's happening right now. Something happened that brought your protection up that you needed right now.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that because it's such a nice way to be able to reflect present process. Mm-hmm. And it's safe. Wow. Like whatever it is, anger or shutting down, whatever in the spectrum of that, it gives us such a safe way to move in, reflect present process and say, I just noticed your protection. I see that you need that right now. Help me understand. That's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I love this topic. I mean, I could go on and on. It's because it covers so much, but I'm glad that we got to talk about this today. And I'd love for people to share their thoughts about really seeing the good in their clients' coping strategies, their protective coping strategies, even just that word, right? And I would love to hear if people can relate to what I shared of just like at first you're kind of like stating lines like you would in a play, and maybe eventually like believing it and feeling it more inside of us, because it changes over time as we're learning this.
Yeah. And your thoughts on how it is to think about, you don't have to change the cycle.
Yes, I love that one.
You're not trying to force something new and amazing to happen in the beginning.
That's
We're never
so
trying to
important.
force that. You're not.
I just want to repeat
Not
that
up
for
to you.
again.
You do not have to make these things happen.
Dr. Spiller, I just want to repeat that again. We are not trying to change the cycle in the beginning. We are only helping them try to see it. I wish I feel like that I could post that on sticky notes around my room, especially if I could go back in time to Michelle 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
But I love that. So thank you, everyone.
Yep, this was
Thank
fun.
you,
Thanks.
Laura.
Talk to you soon.